I will call the Plan Commission meeting of April 25th, 2023 to order. Roll call.
Anna here.
Willow here.
Ipchinsky here.
Oric here.
Guzikowski here.
Chandler here.
That brings us to approval of minutes of the April 11th, 2023 meeting. The minutes approval. If anybody has any corrections, suggestions, comments, otherwise we will look for a motion on the minutes.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call beginning with Commissioner Hanna.
Anna, I.
Willow abstains.
Ipchinsky, aye.
Oric, aye.
Chandler, I.
Can you do a quick mic check, please?
Everybody's mics on.
Guzikowski, aye.
Okay, that brings us to item number 4, review and discuss report on recent common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved the following: an ordinance amending various sections of code in Chapter 17 related to the use of vinyl siding. Also a resolution approving a certified survey map submitted by CR Devco LLC for the properties at 2231 and 1933 West Puth Road, 8843R South 13th Street, and 8950 South 20th Street. Awarded the Peter Cooper Vat House demolition project contract to the lowest responsive bidder, Edgerton Contractors, at an estimated cost of $686,400. Also awarded the North Lakefront Bluff Stabilization and Revetment Project unit price contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Edgerton Contractors, Inc., at an estimated cost of $9,285,400. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item 5, review and discuss report on recent Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal actions. There were none. Item 6, review and discuss report on recent quarterly Parks and Recreation Commission actions. The next report on that will be July 11th, 2023. That brings us to new business, item 7. Before we start on new business, just a reminder to the commission, if we are making any votes in the negative, we do need to submit to staff the code references as to why we are voting in the negative. That brings us to 7A, conditions and restrictions. Review conditions and restrictions for a request submitted by Mohammed Abouain Smart Wash LLC for a conditional use permit for vehicle rentals on the property at 1155 West Anderson Court. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was recommended for approval at the last Plan Commission meeting. Quick overview: this is a request for rental vehicles, U-Haul type vehicles on the property. They are also doing state emissions testing, but that does not require a conditional use permit. They are not proposing any changes to the existing building, and they are occupying Unit A. The rest of the building is currently vacant. They will be occupying one stall for each of the uses on the north. There are currently 20 stalls for customer parking, 2 employee parking stalls on the south. All of the trucks and the proposed trailer will be on the southeast portion, so that's at the back end of the property behind the building. So if we turn to the conditions and restrictions, starting with Section 3, uses allowed on the property are those allowed by the M1 Manufacturing District, conditions and restrictions in all applicable sections of the code. A maximum of 3 rental moving vehicles and 1 trailer shall be allowed on the property in striped and designated stalls in the southeast portion of the property as approved by the Plan Commission per Exhibit A. All vehicles shall be currently licensed and operable. No rental moving vehicles shall be parked or displayed outside of the area approved by the Plan Commission, except for rental moving vehicles actively in transport or in the specific act of rendering a service. Any rental moving vehicles returned by customers shall be moved to the designated parking area during regular hours of operation or by the beginning of operation the following business day for rental moving vehicles returned after hours. There is 1 drop box location proposed on the north. Rental moving vehicles shall not block or hinder fire department access routes, hydrants, or building FDC. Landscaping per the approved plans for the site shall be maintained. No outdoor storage, rental, or sale of equipment, merchandise, parts, supplies, or any other materials on the property. No auto body, automotive, mechanical repair, or service station operations are allowed on the property. The single after-hours drop box shall be in a location approved by the Plan Commission as part of site and building plan review unless otherwise noted by the Plan Commission as part of tonight's review. Hours of operation shall be 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and all signs and related must conform to the code. All solid waste and recycling, screening, and snow removal is the responsibility of the landowner. Under Section 4, parking of rental moving vehicles shall not occur within customer parking areas on the north. Parking is restricted to 3 stalls for rental moving vehicles and 1 rental trailer in striped and designated stalls in the location approved by the Plan Commission per Exhibit A. Under Section 5, lighting shall be installed and maintained per code. Under Section 6, all the bulk and dimensional requirements of the district. As far as parking is concerned, there's a specific call-out for rental moving vehicles per Exhibit A, and then transition and required landscape areas are per code, and also those approved on file. Then finally, Section 8 is the duration of the conditional use permit. Staff is recommending a total of 2 years. Prior to the expiration of those 2 years, the applicant can come back and request an amendment to extend that time. If there are no further questions or concerns, these are the suggested conditions and restrictions for Plan Commission consideration, and there is also a motion for consideration on the screen. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If the applicant's present and wishes to make any comments, please approach the podium. Give your name and address. Otherwise, you can wait for questions. We'll go right to the commission then, starting on my left. Commissioner Hannah.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Carrillo.
Nothing for me.
No questions.
Kowski.
No questions.
No questions.
I do have a question. I'm not sure if it's for Carrie or the applicant. For the stalls that are used for the rentals, do they have to be marked as rentals?
They just have to be in striped parking stalls, so they can't be parked, in the driveway or in non-designated stalls. They don't have to say that they're specifically for rental vehicles, they just have to be in designated stalls. They also have to be on the southeast portion of the property, so they're not going to be allowed in the customer parking area.
Okay, so those stalls, you're at, if I'm understanding you correctly, just a striped area?
Yes.
Shows that it's for that area? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I don't have any questions. I think the conditions and restrictions laid out pretty well and explain all the questions I had. So we will look for a motion on item 7.
Before the commission moves to a motion, just a question for clarification purposes as to whether or not the after-hours drop box is something that the Plan Commission wishes for the applicant to come back for site and building plan review, or if the approximate location on the north end of the building per Exhibit A is sufficient.
Is there any feedback from anybody? I would say it's appropriately placed. They can work with staff.
A quick question. Can you show us where this is?
It would be on the front of the entrance to Unit A. Unfortunately, Exhibit A doesn't really make that very clear, but that was part of the narrative, so we'll just have them update Exhibit A showing exactly where that location is, but it'll be near the entrance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will look for a motion then.
Seipert moves that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of a conditional use permit for vehicle rentals on the property at 1155 West Anderson Court.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call beginning with Commissioner Carrillo.
Carrillo, aye.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Seipert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, aye.
Item 7B is a minor land division lot line adjustment. Review a certified survey map submitted by Greg and Gail Holtz and James and Sarah Nichols modifying the shared lot line between the properties at 8801 South Charmaine Circle and 3381 East Carroll Court. Sylvia?
Good evening, Commission. This is a proposal to make a lot line adjustment between the two properties at the addresses listed. This is to correct a situation where the existing lot line runs through an existing garage on the property on Charmaine Circle. This image shows the site map as well as the plat of the proposed lot line adjustment. The property to the north on Carroll Court has agreed to sell a 6-foot strip of land to their neighbors to the south to amend the situation. This situation does not bring it into compliance with setbacks, but it does bring a non-conforming situation closer into conformance and corrects an error. So with that, I have a suggested motion, and back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. And we'll go right to the commission, starting on my right. Commissioner Chandler.
I do have a question. So with this change, it's still, am I understanding it correctly, that it's still non-conforming with the garage in that area?
Yes, that's correct. Both of these properties were built, I believe, in the 1960s. And so it's not complying with the setback that we have today, but it brings it closer to conformance, which on this lot is the best that can be done with how things are currently laid out.
Okay, and so I do have a question for the applicant.
Need your name and address, please.
Jason Heinen, I represent the homeowner on the south. The address would be 14170 West Greenfield Avenue, Brookfield, Wisconsin, 53005.
So a similar question, so are there any future plan changes to make this conforming?
No, my clients would be interested in buying more to get to the setback, but the neighbor is not interested in that. So we got as much as we could, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Siebert.
No comment.
No questions.
No questions.
Nothing for me.
I actually don't understand. I cannot really visualize where is the setback that doesn't meet. So if you can just put your cursor on the screen and tell me what is exactly so.
Yes, so it's the garage on the southern property on Charmaine Circle.
Okay.
The lot line currently goes right through the existing structure,
Okay.
and they're adjusting so that the lot line, they're buying about 6 feet of property from their neighbors, but the setback is still not to the current code.
So they are buying like some to the north, so it just doesn't go through that structure?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, that makes sense. I have no questions.
And I have no questions either. It's good to see these neighbors work together to at least try to bring this more into conformance. So thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, we will look for a motion on 7B.
Seifert moves that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Greg and Gail Holtz and James and Sarah Nichols for the properties at 8801 South Charmaine Circle and 3381 East Carroll Court be approved with the following conditions: that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for the compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Guzekowski, I'll second.
Roll call, beginning with Commissioner Kupczynski.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
And aye.
Grillo, aye.
Item 7C is a plan review. Review site building and related plans submitted by Jason Bowman, AES Restaurant Group, for exterior building modifications on the property at 1920 West Ryan Road. Sylvia?
Thank you. This is an exterior building modification for an Arby's restaurant located at 1920 West Ryan Road. They are doing a number of things on the facade on all four sides of the building, including removing IFAS and replacing with Nichiha panel finish, which is an approved material per code. They're also repainting the brick, adding a red band around the building. They're replacing the existing canopies with prefabricated metal canopies, and replacing or upgrading existing light fixtures. No other site or building modifications are proposed. These images show the site currently, just for reference. And these are the elevations for the proposed changes. The one above here is the south elevation facing Ryan Road, and the one below is the north elevation. And then this one shows to the left is the east elevation, and to the west, or to the right, is the west elevation. This is an example they submitted of a project with similar finishes in a different location, just for a reference. Staff is recommending that they replace landscaping that was required per their 1997 approved plan. We don't have an original plan for this. We were able to find through Google Street View that planting had been established. In the 2007 image, it's a little bit dark, but you can see that there are some evergreen plantings there. By the mid-2010s, those had decreased, and then currently you can see those plantings are missing. So we're recommending that those be replaced along with this exterior modification. If there are no further questions, I have a suggested motion, and I'll turn it back to the chairman.
Thank you. If the applicant's present and wishes to make any comments, please approach the podium and give your name. Okay. If not, we'll go right to the commission, starting on my left with Commissioner Hanna.
I have no questions, actually, looks good.
Commissioner Curlo.
Nothing for me.
No questions, thank you.
This is in my district, and I did not receive any calls or concerns about it. Looks good to me.
I have a question for the applicant.
You'll need to come up to the mic and give your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Dustin Roush. I'm here representing Jason Bowman.
Question I have is the Arby's sign
Yep.
that you have above the door, is that a new sign, or is that the original sign that you had from?
In the review, it's listed to reuse the existing signage.
Oh, it is the existing sign that you
Yep, we're gonna
already
pull
had.
it down, do the repairs, and then put that sign back up.
I thought maybe it changed or got a little bigger.
Nope.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Chandler.
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions either. I need a definite refresh of the building. And I do support and agree with staff that the landscaping should be renewed to what it was approved to be. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll look for a motion on 7C, please.
Guzekowski will make a motion that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Jason Bowman, AES Restaurant Group, for the proposed exterior modifications on the property at 1920 West Ryan Road with the following conditions. One, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Two, that landscaping is reestablished as was required per the 1997 approved plan. Three, that all final plans, site building, etc. are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, beginning with myself. Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Grillo, I.
Chinsky, aye.
Item 7D is also plan review. Review site building and related plans submitted by Nick Newman, Quick Trip, Inc. for an expansion of the parking lot on the property at 9535 South 13th Street. Sylvia?
Thank you. This is a proposal to add 7 additional parking stalls on the property at 9535 South 13th Street, a Quick Trip gas station convenience store. They're proposing to add the 7 parking stalls on the southwest portion of the property, and no other site or building modifications are proposed. The site plan shows, you can see here, to the southwest in the red is marking where those new parking stalls will be added. And here's a image of the proposed additional parking. And another one with the showing the kind of surrounding area. Staff is also recommending a few revisions that need to be made to their site plan. Overall, this appears to meet code. There are a few areas that need revision, including setbacks needing to be shown on the plan. The plans need to be revised to show the amount of impervious and green space calculations, as well as meeting the code requirements for perimeter parking lot landscaping. With that, I'll turn it back to the chairman if there are no further questions.
Thank you. If the applicant wishes to make any comments, please approach the podium. Then we'll go to the commission, starting with Commissioner Chandler.
I do have a question about the lot.
Nick Newman, 1626 Oak Street, La Crosse, Wisconsin, 54603.
My question is in regards to, per the B4 zoning district, that the lot should not exceed, or lot coverage shouldn't exceed 70%, yet I guess we're looking to get that final number. Is that correct, Sylvia?
Yes, that is one of the areas of the site plan that needs revision to show that calculation.
So what is the final number? Is it?
I don't have
Oh.
that yet, but I can get that for you for the final review, or the final submittal, digital submittal.
Okay, and so that's what's needed, Sylvia? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. We'll work with the applicant on that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Commissioner Siebert?
I have a question. Are you going to blacktop this additional expansion?
No, concrete.
No concrete or
Concrete, yep,
concrete, not blacktop?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Alderman Guzekowski?
I'm good with the changes.
No questions.
No questions.
Got nothing here.
Yeah, and I have no concerns once the new calculations are submitted to staff.
All right.
With that, we'll look for a motion on 7D, please.
Guzekowski makes a motion that Plan Commission approves the plans submitted by Nick Newman for Quick Trip, Inc. for the addition to the existing parking lot on the property of at 9535 South 13th Street, the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that all plans are revised to include setbacks for additional parking spaces. 3, that all plans are revised to include impervious and green space calculations.
Anna seconds.
Roll call beginning with Alderman Guzekowski.
Oh,
Wait,
I
hold on.
apologize,
Oh,
there's a second
there's
page.
more. 4, that landscaping plan is submitted in conformance with code requirements for perimeter parking lot landscaping. 5, that all final plans, site, et cetera, are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to submission of building permit applications.
Anna, as stated, seconds.
Roll call beginning with Alderman Guzekowski.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Anna, I.
Grillo, I.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye. Brings us to item 7E, which is a certified survey map. Review a certified survey map submitted by John Thompson Highgate LLC, dividing the property at 1402 West Hampstead Lane. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a certified survey map that affects a property in the Highgate Planned Unit Development. Proposal is to divide the existing outlot, which is basically the bulk of the remaining property, for one new development lot. The remaining land will stay with Outlot 8, and that will include the wetlands, the stormwater infrastructure, and the cross-access easements, the roads, the internal private roads. No development is proposed at this time. We have been in discussions with potential users of the property, but there's nothing proposed at this time. On the screen right now is the certified survey map and showing where that Lot 7 is located. It's just under an acre and a half at the beginning or at the entrance off of 13th Street. It appears that that the proposed lot meets the minimum lot size requirements for the district and the PUD. And there will be some minor revisions required, particularly with regard to the signature page, just making sure that all of the correct signatories are included. And with that, there is a suggested motion for Plan Commission consideration on the screen. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If the applicant's president wishes to make any comments, please approach the podium. Otherwise, we'll go right to the commission, starting on my left with Commissioner Hanna.
I have no questions, actually.
Commissioner Krill,
Yeah, no questions.
No questions.
Alderman Guzekowski.
I'm good at the certified survey map.
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with the certified survey map. Is the applicant present? I do have one quick question for you. Just need your name and address.
Chris White with Ari Smith, 16745 West Blue Mountain Road.
No issues with the certified survey map, but is there any development that you can share?
Yeah. So I was actually the civil engineer on Highgate, so I'm working with the seller. That lot is likely going to be a car wash that you guys should be seeing very soon.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will look for a motion on the certified survey map.
Guzekowski make a motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by John Thompson Highgate LLC for the property at 1402 West Hampstead Lane be approved with the following condition. One, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call beginning with Commissioner Siebert.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Finsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
That brings us to item 7F, a plan review. Review site building, landscaping, and related plans submitted by Ryan Swingruber, CR Devco LLC, for a single-family attached residential development on the properties at 2231 and 1933 West Putes Road, 8843 South 13th Street, and 8950 South 20th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am going to run through my slides very quickly, and then the applicants have requested a presentation be displayed as well. So this is for the Heyday development. This was approved as a PUD, and just for reminder, the certified survey map to combine and reconfigure the properties in red was reviewed and approved by both the Plan Commission and the Common Council. The PUD is being amended to allow for a little bit more time for the time of compliance section, and that goes to the Common Council May 2nd. The proposal includes single-family attached dwellings as per the general development plan in the PUD. That includes 22 buildings in 4, 6, and 8 unit configurations for a total of 130 units. That is the density that was approved in the PUD. In fact, they are allowed 2 more. They are proposing attached garages for each unit. And the last building is a combination leasing, mailbox, kiosk, and storage building on the north. So we're going to break this down because it is a bit of a site plan that extends down throughout the property. This is at the entrance, so there will be an extension of Apple Creek Drive, which is a public road up to the proposed cul-de-sac. And that's in compliance with all the plans that have been presented and approved thus far. That includes the amendment to the official map as well as the certified survey map. So again, the public right-of-way terminates at the cul-de-sac. The continuation is all private and internal roads are all private, with the exception of the cul-de-sac on 20th Street, which is going to be extended onto this property at the south end, but it will be gated and for emergency access only. So on the screen right now, what we have showing at the beginning, so in the blue box, that is the entrance. There is a proposed monument sign. We will need some more information from that, so consider that just a general placeholder right now. One of the proposed stormwater ponds, and the parking lot with the leasing office and mailbox kiosk and storage building is also shown on the plan there in the blue box. There is a recommendation for that stormwater infrastructure to move slightly to the east just to give a little bit more room for it off of the public right-of-way. Just south of the cul-de-sac are a couple of units there, and that is, I believe, an 8-unit attached building. And right at the end of that private portion of the road before it turns into the main portion of the development, there are 7 parking stalls. We are recommending that those stalls be given a second look, just because they seem to be kind of detached from the units in both directions. So we're asking for consideration of those parking stalls to be either relocated elsewhere on site so that they serve more of the buildings, or be eliminated altogether because it's excess. Okay, now we're turning into the main portion of the development where most of the buildings are located, and we have these 6, 4, and 8-unit buildings here, and I misspoke. I think that was a 6-unit building that was up on the street before that. So we do have wetlands in the vicinity. We do have those setbacks. I think that some of the labels got switched though, so that is one thing that we've noted to ensure that we have the buffers and the wetland delineation lines actually properly marked. We have floodplain on the property as well. We need to also ensure that we are properly distinguishing between flood fringe and floodway. And there are 2 proposed stormwater ponds in the vicinity as well. The other thing that we need to ensure is that we have all the setbacks for the buildings, particularly when they're close to public rights-of-way. So those cul-de-sacs are really what we're looking for, just to make sure that we are meeting all of those setback requirements. The signs as well. Turning now to the landscape plans, what we have shown in the next few slides, and I'm just going to run through these very quickly, are preliminary landscape plans that show an extensive amount of the property to be maintained in almost a conservation area. And one of the things that is going to be asked of the Plan Commission is to consider a modification to the tree inventory and replacement or retention plan. While the landscape plan does call for quite a bit of the land to be considered preserved, we don't have a full inventory of everything on the property because this is quite a lot of acreage. So one of the requests is for the Plan Commission to consider a proposal to dedicate the 12-acre Lot 3 in the CSM that's been approved as a dedication or through deed restriction or conservation easement as kind of compensating for not presenting a full tree inventory of the property. So that'll be one of the things the Plan Commission is asked to consider. Going back to the streets, just to let everybody know, the internal access roads are all 24 feet wide. They do need to, per the PUD, restrict parking to one side of the road and a 20-foot clear span for emergency services needs to be maintained at all times. Also, per the PUD, when we're talking about parking stalls are provided throughout. We have about 73 parking stalls, that are in various places throughout the PUD, not counting the 18 that are up by the leasing office. Those surface parking stalls are in addition to the PUD requirement for one garage stall for single unit or single bedroom units, and two car garages for 2 and 3 bedroom units, which are provided in all of these plans. One of the things that does need to be stated on the plans also is the dimensions of the proposed driveway aprons. They are required to be a minimum of 22 feet long in order to accommodate 2 additional cars. And that's without obstructing any of the rights-of-way or other required fire department apparatus. We do need to have the landscape plans updated with labels and heights and screening requirements just to make sure that we are meeting code requirements. Plan commissioners will note there are no trash enclosures that are presented. It's private trash collection, and they will be in rolling bins. If at any time in the future a trash enclosure is proposed, it will need to meet code. Turning now to the elevations on the screen right now, these are the proposed images for the leasing, mail, and storage office. And quickly, the 4-unit, 6-unit, and 8-unit buildings are incorporating similar architecture. I did not include the elevations, the renderings for all of these. There are several color palettes that will be presented by the applicants in a moment. And before we go to the presentation, just to let you know, the exterior building materials on all the buildings include vinyl in either board and batten, lap, or shake siding. And the base of the residential buildings has been updated and will be talked about by the applicants in a moment. The office is incorporating, I believe, just board and batten siding that will have a metal roof as opposed to shingled roofs. And there's no base along the office building itself. We also need lighting plans. The signs need to be presented in a way that conforms with code in terms of setbacks. We don't have any designs right now, so again, those are considered placeholders. And we talked about moving the pond. So before we get to the suggested motion, I am going to bring up the presentation and turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Swingruber, and I live at 228 Raymond Avenue in Barrington, Illinois. And I'm a part of the development team, and I'll just take you through the presentation quickly and answer any questions that arise. So last time we were here, both in front of Common Council and Plan Commission, there was a discussion on the vinyl siding that we were presenting. And our position was that we were going to present a material of the highest quality in terms of vinyl. And the goal of this presentation is to specifically detail exactly what we're putting on the building in terms of the manufacturer, the specification, the thickness, and then the quality of the material. And so this first image is the site plan. And one of the discussion items tonight for Plan Commission is the fact that we are presenting 12 acres in lieu of the tree preservation ordinance. And so the 12 acres is highlighted in the presentation. It's lot 3 per the official CSM. Next, we'll talk about the vertical vinyl siding that we're going to be using on the buildings, followed by the horizontal and the shake. And so as you can see here, this is a rendering of one of our schemes. There's 4 schemes in total. When I say scheme, that's color and material. The material will be consistent pretty much throughout each building, and we'll show this in the presentation. So this first scheme is a Colonial White Certainteed product. It's a vertical board and batten. Certainteed makes two sizes in this. They make a 7-inch wide and an 8-inch wide. We are going to be using the 8-inch wide. And so the presentation will discuss this a little bit more, but it is the widest in terms of width board and batten in the industry. Next, you'll see a masonry water table, which is a primary building material. This will be a water table around the entirety of the building. I want to clarify something too, that we made a mistake in the application that the leasing office is showing no stone. The intent always, and what we've communicated to Plan Commission as well as City Council, Common Council, is we will have stone around every single building at this property. And so that needs to be updated, and I apologize. So this is one scheme. So this is our modern farmhouse that uses a vertical board and batten with a masonry / stone water table, which will meet the minimum 3-inch requirement for the base. Here are some actual images of the material that Certainteed will be providing. The far right-hand corner is the actual color and spec being used. We also will have a forest green color on site, which is the middle image, but we wanted to show some actual real-life images of the quality of this material installed. So here's some high-level points on the material. Once again, we're requesting our approval be specific to this actual spec, and it talks a little bit about the benefits of why we're proposing this. First and foremost, the thickness of this is 0.048 inches. The minimum residential grade standard per the city is 0.044, so we're exceeding that thickness for the material. And in our application, our memo to staff, we discussed some of the benefits, which the vinyl is impervious to water and moisture, where if you're using a fiber cement and it gets scratched or the paint exposed, it can absorb that water and be damaged over time. Also, this doesn't ever need to be repainted, which is important from a longevity and a maintenance and aesthetic standpoint to the city and also to the management of the property. And it also has a real wood look, true cedar board appearance, which is it's manufactured and printed into the actual vinyl. And so this is the single 8-inch rough cedar board and batten. And this outlines some of the benefits, and also the health risks to the contractor during installation. They don't need to wear a mask, etc. So the next slide, please. This will be the horizontal vinyl siding we will be using on site. So this is a second color scheme. This is a specific gray that we'll be using on the site. And so in this particular application, in this building scheme, we'll have the horizontal lap siding. It's a 5-inch Certainteed product. We'll also show you it's going to exceed the minimum thickness required by the city. It'll be complemented by the water table. Once again, that's a primary building material that'll meet a minimum 3-inch thickness. And then we'll have the board and batten up in the gable, as you can see. Once again, these are actual images of the Certainteed monogram 5-inch clapboard rough cedar. So once again, the rough cedar will be manufactured as a detail into the siding, but these are all real life actual photos, applications of this product. And then going into the specs again, it'll be that real wood look, the cedar board appearance, impervious to water and moisture, the health risks we discussed. Also, the thickness on this particular product is 0.48, which exceeds the minimum standard for the city. And we talked about the need, or the lack thereof, to repaint this product, and it is not prone to fading due to the sunlight. And so next, please. Lastly, this is the polymer shingle shake that we'll be proposing in the gable on one of the color schemes. So this is a third color scheme, which is a Pacific blue. It'll utilize the horizontal lap siding on the first floor, and in the gable, we will have that polymer shingle. Once again, the stone will complement this scheme. And here are some actual images of that polymer shake shingle installed on some high-end single-family homes. And then more specific to the durability and the performance. And once again, the minimum thickness here is 0.100 inches, so it exceeds the minimum standard. And then this reiterates some of the things we discussed about before. There's no weathering, no long-term maintenance, pest-free in terms of termites. And then all these products offer a significantly lower environmental impact than other cladding options that are more standard in the market or an option to vinyl. And then lastly, this is our last slide. So, we take this request very, very seriously. We wanted to show the quality of these materials, how we're meeting a certain standard or exceeding it. And so one of the discussions during the last meeting were circumstances and are we meeting minimum standard? And so, number one, the vinyl siding is an approved material for attached single-family housing in the recent zoning amendment. But it's specific to the second floor. But in the spirit of meeting that code, we are single-story buildings, and there are a lot of benefits to that. And one of it is it's universal housing, meaning no ramps, no steps, no stairs. This is a great housing option for active seniors, downsizers, baby boomers, and one that's desperately needed throughout the country. And so we feel in meeting the spirit of the code, we are providing a primary building material on the first floor, which is the stone and masonry. We are not required to do that. An option is if the vinyl was not considered or not approved, we could just do fiber cement on the entirety of the facade. We feel this is a good balance in meeting the spirit of the code by providing the stone and brick on all buildings around the entirety of the facade, complemented by the vinyl. I think also the circumstance of our request is the overall land use and density. We talked a little bit about the land use here. It complements the surrounding neighborhood. It's a housing option that's desperately needed. It's unique, but our density is 2.68 units per acre on a very, very challenging site when it comes to topography, wetlands, and environmental corridor. And proof of that is the property has never been developed. So we feel, taking that in consideration, that's a circumstance that warrants the approval of the vinyl. Excuse me. And I just briefly discussed at the previous Plan Commission and Common Council that we agreed to provide the 3-foot masonry stone water table in support of the vinyl, even though that wasn't a requirement. The project, despite some requests to the state, other environmental agencies, and then working with the city, we're not getting any financial support. And I think that's something also to take in consideration for a difficult site, because it's no secret, given the market, the inflationary market that we're in, construction pricing keeps going up. And every time we seem to price this thing, we're losing more and more of our underwriting and our return. Additionally, with interest rates, it's making it very, very difficult to obtain debt. Thankfully, right now, we have a lender that's on hold that's wanting to finance this deal. We have equity in the wings, but we have a capital stack that's finalized, and honestly, it assumes the vinyl. And so, we had stated this in previous meetings that the fiber cement is a significant cost upgrade that would be detrimental to our underwriting to get this thing financed and started this year, hopefully. And then meeting the minimum standard. The city's minimum standard for residential grade vinyl siding is 0.044 inches. And as I outlined, all three materials exceed that. They are of the highest quality and grade offered by Certainteed. And so we're not meeting the minimum, we're exceeding that. And then we're complementing that with the primary material, the brick and stone, which we believe is going above and beyond for consideration for this request. So circumstances, minimum standard, and then the last thing was there was a lot of discussion on precedent at the previous couple meetings when we addressed and brought this to you and City Council. And I think for all the benefits that this project is providing, I would challenge another developer to come in at this density to offer dedicating 12 acres of land to provide a housing option that's in desperate need, and to also work within our best ability to meet in the spirit of the code for materials, providing the stone or brick. Everything that this development's bringing to the city of Oak Creek that are all benefits, I think those set a standard that it will be very, very difficult to meet should Plan Commission be presented with another request to use vinyl. We are low density. It makes it very, very difficult in our underwriting. The site work, the land work, everything costs more because we're not going higher. We're not 2 or 3 story, 4-story traditional multifamily, and when you have higher density, it's easier to absorb additional costs. We're really excited to bring this to the city. We're excited to be here tonight. This is the last step, and we're hoping that we can gain your approval and start construction this year.
Here's a suggested motion for consideration on the screen, but turn it to the Plan Commission for any questions or comments.
Thank you. This isn't an official public hearing, but we always let residents speak, so I'm not going to stop that now. Before I call the first resident, there was an email. I want to just read it for the record, so it can be addressed either by the applicant or staff. This is an email from Patrick Jetame, 2021 West Grays Lane, Oak Creek. I have a question about the buffer on the west side of the project. A long time ago, they said it was to be a berm with trees on it, and now it just said vegetated buffer. I hope this is a berm with trees and not just shrubs. Please find out at the meeting. I really do not want to look at the site. We have beautiful trees now. So I don't know if you want to wait to address any public comments until they're all made, or if you want to address as they come in.
Yeah, so the west side, I do know without off the top of my head that we are preserving the tree line there, and we're meeting the required setback from the property line. And so I don't believe we ever communicated a berm, but what we did communicate that we were going to preserve the trees, and then our landscaping plan would call for supplemental trees where appropriate without impacting the existing to create a visual barrier to the property to the west.
Thank you. And then I do have one request to speak form if anybody wishes to speak. There's some forms on the wall that you can fill out. Otherwise, raise your hand after the first speaker. Mrs. Linder? As always, just need your name and address, please, for the record.
Barbara Linder, 2411 West Putes Road. Paper I received in the mail, it has it where it's developing the whole corner next to my property. And I would like to know, you're gonna be building right up to my property line, these apartments? Is that what the plan is? See, it's the corner property up there.
Oh, yes, please.
Josh Walreich. I live at 313 Surrey Lane in Lake Forest, Illinois. Carrie, could you go to the site plan overall so I can understand where her property is and comment on?
Well, her
Corner
property
right
is
there.
right here.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're not doing anything up there. We have no plans to develop up there.
Well, you must have some plans in the future that you wanted. You must have something that you got in mind because you are putting it on their map. So you must want something. And my husband and I would like to know, if you are developing that corner there, how many units possibly would you put in that corner? I mean, you do have that corner. There is the pond there that's always been there, but I was told at the last meeting you could fill it. I don't understand that one, but I guess you can. And you'd have to put another pond somewhere. We would like to know what the future for that corner is. Because as you can see, the development owns 2 sides of our property. And I mean, that's everything to us. I mean, other people on Putes Road aren't being absorbed like we are in that corner and in the back.
Sure, I understand your concerns. So that parcel right now is zoned commercial.
Right.
I have no intention of rezoning that to permit for residential to be built on that site. And in addition, the parcel 3 to the south of your property, we are proposing dedicating that or preserving that so that there is no development on that in any way, shape, or form in the future. So it's hard to see on this slide. We have no intention of building any units on that parcel near your house.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, I think through this whole process over the last 12 to 16 months coming in, we've heard the neighbors loud and clear, and so lot 3 per the CSM that my partner's referencing, once again, that's in front of Plan Commission tonight, that we would dedicate, conserve, work with the city that it never gets developed. And so the residents on Gray's Lane to the south, as well as yourself and your neighbors, can have the peace of mind that nothing's being developed there. And just to reiterate what my partner said, the commercial lot that you're adjacent to, as well as the lot that I just referenced, we've never brought in for a rezoning, a comp plan amendment, et cetera. So we couldn't do anything, and we've never made an application for it.
And our product wouldn't work there. Even if we wanted to come in and rezone that for apartments, you can't fill in that water. Despite what you may have heard, we have no intention of doing it. There will not be residential on that parcel, period.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you for addressing that, and just to clarify, the agenda item are these 2 parcels that are up on the screen now. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
First, I apologize for not filling out the forms. I didn't realize they were over there. Elwood Fawcett, 9040 South 20th Street. I've got a couple questions, not actually for the developer for some of it, more for the city.
You just make sure the mic is picking you up.
Okay, hopefully it is. In the public right-of-way, both on the north end of the development and on the south end, the cul-de-sac on 20th Street, the civil plans show both the paving of those areas and the installation of catch basins. Some of those catch basins are connected to public storm sewers that drain directly into private storm sewers. And I had no idea what the city's policies were on guaranteeing in the future that the outlet is going to be there. And also I didn't know if there was any commitment by the city to share in the maintenance of the downstream storm sewers. And I don't expect the answer on that now. It's just something that came to mind, and I hope someone would at least look into it. The other thing, there is a conflict. I shouldn't say that. There is a discrepancy in the plans. The civil plans show public water main, which makes sense because it loops through the development, and private sanitary sewers. The certified survey map that was approved by the Plan Commission shows easements for sanitary sewer and water main. It doesn't make sense. If the sewers are going to be private, there's no need for the public easements for the sanitary. And the only reason I bring that up is you can have all sorts of understandings now, but down the road in the future, it's very easy to make an argument 15, 20 years from now that they must be public sewers, they're in a public easement. And I think to protect the city, that should be changed. The other one is a request for the developer. They did a very nice job on the landscaping, and the plans are great. And on the paving plans and on the landscape plans, they show the cul-de-sac on 20th Street and the emergency gates that are there to prevent non-emergency access to the site. All I would ask is that someone take a look at the possibility of adding some additional landscaping in the vicinity of those gates to prevent cars from driving around the gates. It's very easy to drive across the grass when you're not supposed to. It's just a... and then the final thing is, it came up on your presentation tonight, the stone work. In your description of the circumstances, you talk about a 3-foot tall water course or water band. On the detail that's in the submittal, it shows a 2-foot course. On the plans, it shows the stonework going to the bottom of the windows. Well, it shows the detail, I think, is 2 feet off the floor. It just...
Sure. I think you misunderstood. When Ryan was talking, he was talking about the thickness of the product, and it's a 3-inch thick product.
Don't go back to you've got 3-foot course.
Okay, then it's whatever it's detailed on the plans is correct. If in our presentation we said 3 foot, It would be accurately reflected on these elevations. So it very well might be 2 feet. It goes up to the bottom of the windows.
Okay, that would make more sense. That would match the detail, because in the letter to Carrie dated 3/24, you referred to a 3-foot-high masonry water table, yet the detail shows a 2-foot, and I just wanted a clarification.
Yeah,
Either works, I
the
don't-
detail would be accurate. So if it's a 2-foot detail, that's the correct dimension.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is coming from engineering. Regarding the sanitary sewer, I did talk with the water and sewer utility, and the CSM is shown correctly that that will be required to be a public sanitary, unlike the plans show it to be private. It all will be required to be public.
Again, Elwood Fawcett. If that's the case, my next question would be to the Plan Commission and to the city. Are all multifamily unit developments, or all multifamily developments, do all of them have private or public sanitary sewer?
They do not, and I will have to speak further with the water and sewer utility on that. This one, I believe, is different because it already had the utility easement that had public water and sanitary in there that had come off of Putes. So this was a continuation of that, so I can talk to them on further.
Okay, actually, it's
reasoning
not a
as to why.
continuation of it. The sewer and water that are in there provide service to the area in that general vicinity, but also north of Pewitz Road. It was put in there at a time when that was going to be a public street. And it was supposed to align with a public street and be a public sewer. And it makes sense. It's a transmission main. It doesn't serve any, just that area of development. The rest of the sewer, the water main in here, actually you can make an argument for it to be public because it connects to public water main on one side of the development, the public water main on the other side. And you can get flow through those pipes, circulating water in the system. So there's some argument to be made for that. The sanitary sewers are totally to serve the development. If it was a single-family development, yeah, it would make sense. But it's not a single-family development. It's a low-density multifamily. And it makes no sense that the city should be on the hook for the maintenance and future replacement of that. It's
Right.
it
Well,
just,
thank you for your comments. Yep, I will discuss that further with them.
okay. In that case, just so you know that I will bring it up with the engineering department and the water utility and at the common council meeting. Because it's physically doesn't make much difference. Financially, it makes a huge difference down the line for the city.
Right, thank you.
Other residents wishing to speak? If not, I'll ask fire. Does fire have any comments? Okay. And we'll go to Plan Commission with any questions. Starting on my left with Commissioner.
The only question, actually, I was just thinking about what this gentleman was talking about for the future maintenance of the water and sewer. And of course, I'm gonna let the engineering and the utility section to answer that. The main cost would be the maintenance of the future utilities. So, again, I'm not gonna be answering on their behalf, but maybe possibility of having like a maintenance agreement between the city and a developer. So, again, but now my question is, are those single housing condos? What are those building, apartments? What exactly are they?
They're rental apartments.
They are rental, okay. Are there any HOA fees?
No.
Okay, so who's maintaining the landscaping and the removal of the snow and all of that?
That will all be done by us as the landlord.
Okay, so there is no cost to the renters or no cost to anyone?
Nothing beyond their rent.
Okay, so how about the sidewalk, bike trails or anything from that sort is going to be provided and maintained by the developer?
Correct. The only thing that I think would be maintained by the city would be sidewalks on the public portion of the street
Okay.
and the public street itself.
The sidewalks within the city of Oak Creek are actually maintained by the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
So the street will be, but yes, the sidewalk will be the adjacent property owner's responsibility.
And when you say maintain, that's like
Snow
remove snow,
removal.
but it's not repair and maintenance, or it's that as well.
Currently, our code does read trip hazards and whatnot is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Exactly, like if there is any stones that's gonna be cracked or anything, so it's gonna be the responsibility of either the owners or the developer for them to come back and replace it, and all the curb ramps will be ADA compliant and from that sort of facilities. So, one final questions. I haven't seen the parking for those, maybe I missed it. Where are those parking aside those apartments? Where are they located?
So they're in the building themselves.
Okay.
We've got 5 different floor plans, 2 1-bedroom floor plans, 2 2-bedroom floor plans, and a 3-bedroom floor plan. Our smallest 1-bedroom floor plan has a 1-car attached garage and a parking pad that would fit 1 additional car. Every other unit has a 2-car attached garage and a parking pad that would fit 2 cars.
Okay, is there on-street parking?
Chris, what did we do there? Did we do any on-street parking? I don't think we did.
No, Carrie, I think, talked about it. There are some, I'm sorry, Chris Carr with the Sigma Group, 1300 West Canal, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There are some intermingled groups of 5 or 8 parking spaces throughout the development for visitors and other people if you had a party or something, but we have a 24-foot wide road, and there's no on-street parking. So the only ones, and you can kind of see one on the left here, we've got 5 or 8. I think there's a total of 70-something, is that correct, Carrie? Kind of throughout the thing, so if you had a party or had visitors come, there'd be areas outside. Each of the depth outside of the garage is designed to have a car outside, so almost like you had your driveway. So if you've got a car in the garage, it's designed that you could also have a car outside of your garage, kind of on your stoop, and they're all designed pretty flat. So you can comfortably park there, and that's designed so that a car could be sitting there and it would not impede the drive aisle.
Okay, what is the width of the road from the face to face of those?
24 feet.
Good, so there is no, another car can just come and park, so it's just the
Exactly,
travel
yep.
lane. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo?
I apologize, I was not here last time you were in front of the commission. Lot 3, can you just briefly explain your idea for that?
Yeah, it's approximately 12 acres, and early on in the application process, when we first brought this in, we looked at some of the benefits that we could provide the city, and one of them was studying the comp plan and the parks plan, I believe, is the title of that section in the comp plan. And it talked about different types of parks throughout the city and the nature preserves. And one of the ideas my partner and I had very early on, meeting with Doug and Carrie, was could we create a nature preserve at this portion of the city, the southwest portion where one is absent. And so we envisioned a walking trail through that 12 acres. But as we got further along, we discussed the city would be the most appropriate person or appropriate group to make the final decision on that. And so what we're proposing is, dedicating it or conserving it so it never gets developed, and then City of Oak Creek Parks Department can determine the best use, and it might just be forever wild.
Thank you.
I think the term that we outlined in our submittal was a natural resource park.
Kipchinsky?
And nothing further from me. We'll continue to work with developer on development agreement, reviewing stormwater, stormwater maintenance agreement, all of those upcoming items.
Alderman Guzekowski?
No questions for me at this point. I think, and the changes that you're looking for, I don't have that much of a heartburn over. But going going to vinyl that is pretty different than what your guys were proposing originally. So that's something I gotta have to think about a little bit.
Just to clarify, we've proposed vinyl since the very first
Oh, okay.
meeting.
Then
Yeah,
you're good.
nothing has changed, and
All right, good, then we're good.
Okay.
My mistake, sorry about that.
no
Thanks.
worries.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yeah, I have a question. That's wall that's common between the units. How do you keep that soundproof so that you don't get that noise? I've experienced other places that the sound barrier is pretty thin and so forth. So how do you kind of keep that noise level?
Certainly, it's a great question. And it's one that, you know, as operators of rentals, that you have to be very concerned about that and water, right? And so if you look at the details on our plan, that firewall that separates the two units, we have designed it to an STC. I think the proper terminology is sound transmission coefficient. And it's above a 60. Code requires you to be, I think, at like a 52 or 54. Somebody would have to check that, but we're exceeding that. And that's to the benefit of the property and us as operators, because the last thing we want is somebody complaining about somebody living next door and the noise. And so we've designed it to a condo standard is what I would term that as, that 62 STC rating. And, you know, truthfully, we're selling a type of lifestyle here. It's a substitution for home ownership. The majority of the unit mix is 2 bedrooms, and people living here are either downsizing or saving for their house. And so the sales pitch is nobody's above or below, and we want them to feel like they have their own home. And so that sound STC rating is very important to us. But if you were to look at the plan submitted in our application, that firewall details a 62 STC.
Thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Chandler?
Hey, I do have a couple questions. So, Carrie, can you go to the slide where it shows the different lots, 1 through 4? And to our understanding, lot 3, that's the one that will be called, what did you call it? The natural resource park, right? And so my question is, with lots 1, 2, and 4, since lot 3, you're going to preserve the trees there, what will happen on 1, 2, and 4?
So lot 1 is the current development that we're speaking about tonight. Lot 2, there are no current plans to do anything with. Lot 3 will be preserved as we discussed, and lot 4, there are no current plans to do anything with.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a question about, there is a pond. Which lot is that on? Is that lot 1?
Lot 1, if you look at page 3 of the packet that we gave you, that shows it pretty well. But are you referring to the 2 ponds shown on lot 1 that are adjacent to I-94?
Yes, the one that's pretty close to the public right-of-way.
Sure. Those are the stormwater retention detention ponds.
So any plans to make any changes here?
I'll let our engineer respond.
Yeah, I think there was a comment from engineering and from planning that the stormwater pond near the road up here on the north, so we can definitely move that away if that's a problem, give it some more space between the right-of-way. And we also have additional room. I think there's a comment from the stormwater staff that we're pretty tight. We are tight, but if we need to add an additional area and shift that pond, we have no issue with that. There's enough room to allow for that.
Okay, and would that meet the requirements, Gary? With the shift of this pond?
It's something that the engineering department would have to take a closer look
okay.
at once we get those revised plans. And I can defer to Commissioner Kupczynski for additional.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be fine once it's shifted. Our main concern is that with it being right up against the sidewalk there and the salt usage on the sidewalk and the shoveling and making sure that that has a place to dissipate prior to going into that pond.
Okay, and then my final question, just wanted to inquire if there was any connection or feedback with the DNR.
Good question. Yes, we do have both the DNR and the core permits for the wetlands fill. They're very, very minor. I don't know the number, but I think it's in like the 1,500. Some projects can fill up to 10,000. Ours are very minor, and they were only set up because we needed to put the road through the right of way. There was already a, generally where the utilities were. So yes, we've received both the federal permit and the DNR permit. We also have our NOI, which is another DNR permit. So we tried very hard to minimize any wetland impacts, and we're reserving a lot of them on site.
So, quick question, Carrie, is that something they need to submit to the city?
Yeah, we'll need
Okay.
copies of all of their approvals, and they're aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One question
Oh,
for the assistant chief.
Assistant Chief Mike Avey, Fire.
The question I have is the south end, we have it locked so that people can't use that exit basically, except for emergency. Is the fire department the only one that controls that locks, or does the police department and the owner have a key for that?
So each agency, for example, fire department has a Knox box is what we use to gain access to structures or buildings or security areas. Law enforcement, utility companies may use a different type or a different vendor. So that's up to each agency to determine if they will lock that or that's rely on us for access to it. I can't answer for law enforcement, but for fire, we use a proprietary vendor for access.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I think all my notes have been asked or addressed, other than one question for Carrie, I believe, for condition number 8. Do you need us to change it from plan commission approval? Could we defer that to staff?
That's something that the Plan Commission needs to determine, yes, whether or not it needs to be brought back before the Plan Commission, or if you do want staff to work with the applicant on those requirements. Now, one of the requirements is going to be that they submit fixtures as well as a photometric, so it's something that the Plan Commission at least typically has an opportunity to review in terms of the fixtures themselves and light poles for the development as far as the private portion is concerned, but if you have no concerns about it, then we can do it.
The feeling of the plan commission.
Leave it to staff.
That's where I feel. Leave it to staff to make the final decision.
Yeah, we'll leave it to staff and engineering too.
Okay. So then whoever makes the motion, just know that it'll be to staff, not by.
Quick question. Carrie, can you repeat your last statement? Did you say normally Plan Commission takes care of the lighting plan, the details?
Normally, the Plan Commission at least has the opportunity to review the fixtures and the poles themselves, including the locations of them. The photometrics are going to be reviewed and for compliance and requirements by the electrical inspectors along with all the other details, but typically, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but typically the Plan Commission has not really had much in terms of concern or comment about those fixtures. It's just an opportunity for you to review it. Bear with me just a second.
Yeah, I think on the industry side, we would typically, we'd use full cutoff lights, lower level lights, and we would just work with staff on code. So aesthetically, they'll be, we understand the issues on the west, they'll all be full shut off, so you don't see it from the side. So it wouldn't typically be something that there would be a big aesthetic piece that this group, at least based on my experience, would have an issue. We'd usually work with engineering and staff on an item like that.
I actually have a question for you. So those light fixtures, especially if they have any aesthetic or any decorative type of thing, if they come back to the outside, that especially they have to be matching if there is any lighting on the outside, so we don't have any discrepancy between those two, right? So we just have to make sure that we don't have any contradiction between those.
Are you talking about the exterior lighting, for example, on a unit?
Exterior lighting on the road, on pews versus if you have to
The
put one.
continuation of the city's fixtures through the development, so
Yes.
it looks like one development.
Yes.
Yeah, we would typically, I think the city, and I'm not sure, I'd have to verify with Ashley if we've decided that the public right-of-way will have right-of-way, but we typically, when we go from a public to a private road, we typically would not have consistent lighting between the two. They have a different level, and a different aesthetic, so, and I think that might be one. I don't know if we've decided whether that stub will have street lighting. If it is required, we'll meet code. But usually when we go down to the residential level, our lights will be much lower, a lower intensity meeting code.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Ashley and you guys can work together in the planning, of course.
Alderman Guzekowski.
I just wanted to mention too that, the lot 3, I think that's a good idea, calling it a natural resources park or whatever, however you want to call it, but, just so that especially for the residents living right there, that they know that nothing's gonna happen there, even though it's zoned as commercial, that doesn't mean, that you couldn't sell it to somebody and they wanna, do something. So I think whatever we can do to reassure the neighbors, it's gonna be woods and that's about it. Sorry.
Oh, just one clarification. Lot 3 is not the commercially zoned portion. Lot 3 is typically still within the residential zoning district. So it's just the hard corner that's zone B4.
Got it. Okay. All right. But the rest of it is, I got it. Yep. Okay. I'm all good. Thank you.
And I think we intend to work with staff and whatever entity we have to figure out the best way to do that. There's various ways that we could do it. It could be a deed restriction. We could dedicate it. We could sell it to the city. We could also do a conservation easement. So I think we just have to work with staff to figure out what's the best way to do that.
Agree. Thank you.
Last call for comments. Okay, we will look for a motion then.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plan submitted by CR Devgo LLC for the properties at 2231 West Putes Road, 8843 South 13th Street, and 8950 South 20th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements and conditions of the planned unit development remain in effect. 2, that plans are revised and include all setbacks, wetland boundaries, setbacks and buffers, floodway and fringe areas with labels and dimensions. 3, that all copies of the wetland fill permits approvals by the Wisconsin DNR shall be provided to the city prior to submission of the building permit application. 4, that the exterior brick veneer meets a minimum 3-inch thick requirement per code.
Just one clarification, brick/stone, so masonry veneer in this case.
Yes, as stated. Thank you. 5. Yep, 5. That the lot 3 of the CSM be recorded and is preserved through dedication, deed restriction, or conversation easement in lieu of the full tree inventory, a replacement plan of lots 1 and 2. 6, that the landscape plans are revised per code and PUD requirements. 7, that all mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground building and rooftop shall be screened from view. Is that it? 8, that the lighting plan provided for review for approval by Department of Community Development and Engineering department prior to submission of permit applications. 9, that all stormwater requirements are coordinated with and approved by the engineering department prior to submission of permit applications. 10, that all revised plans, site, building, landscape are submitted to in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call beginning with Commissioner Chandler.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, I.
Grillo, aye.
Ripchinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Thank you, everybody. That brings us to our last item, 7G, which is plan review. Review site building and related plans submitted by Elena Fashion Driven Brands, Inc. for accessory structures, trash enclosures, and a ground mechanical enclosure on the property at 6900 South 27th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in regards to the existing development that currently has a car wash facility and oil change facility on the property. That was part of a previously approved conditional use permit. And the proposal before the Plan Commission this evening is for several site modifications and some structures, particularly pay kiosks that will be installed prior to the entrance to the existing car wash facility, a trash enclosure that's proposed on the front facade or the west facade of the service facility, the oil change facility, a vacuum equipment enclosure that is just southwest of the building for the car wash. And we also have noted that there are site modifications that have occurred without local review previously, and in particular that has to do with the parking. So we'll just get into the site plan as proposed right now. You see the two buildings, the car wash is on the north. There are parking stalls that have associated vacuum appurtenances, and the few locations that we're going to be talking about are on the screen right now. In pink are the kiosks. There are proposed to have 2 areas that are going to be covered by prefab metal arches, and we don't have particular details for like say dimensions and things like that for these particular kiosks, but they will be over the pay stations. In green, that's the location of the proposed vacuum enclosure. And then in orange is the location of the proposed trash enclosure. Again, that's on the entry facade to the oil change facility. The black box that's in the northwest corner of the facility or of the property is the location of the 2 parking stalls that were added post DOT 27th Street reconstruction project in 2016. And the concern there is because they were not brought before the Plan Commission for review and approval, they don't meet setback requirements. So those 2 stalls should technically be removed as they don't meet requirements. But we did not have an opportunity to provide those comments prior to their installation. We do have a couple of concerns with this proposal. One of them is with the vacuum enclosure, and this is something that we feel we have provided a solution to. The gates are proposed to kind of swing out into what is going to be an active travel lane. We feel that if the enclosure were to be rotated so that the gates would be accessed internally, it would not provide any opportunities for vehicle traffic conflict there. It will be up to the Plan Commission to determine whether or not the location of the trash enclosure is acceptable. We do note that it would require the removal of 1 parking stall, and per code, those trash enclosures are not allowed to be located in a place that would take up parking stalls. However, overall, the number of stalls provided for parking on site exceeds what is required by code. As far as the reconfiguration of the queuing aisle with regard to the installation of these two pay kiosks. Code requires a minimum of 5 stacking spaces that are at least 20 feet deep. The plans, as you can see, provide for approximately 3 vehicles to stack prior to the pay kiosk, then about 2 just past the pay kiosk gate, and then 4 or possibly even 5 could stack in the single lane configuration prior to the entrance to the car wash facility. We don't have any dimensions for those stacking spaces, however, so it will be up to the Plan Commission to determine whether or not the configuration is acceptable, but we will need those dimensions prior to any approval of permits. Also per code, the menus, so the little signs that are illuminated to give you an idea of what car wash you can pick and things like that. Any kind of menu option is limited to a cumulative total of 100 square feet. We don't have any details for what the menus are, so we can't determine whether or not what's proposed meets code requirements. Excuse me. It is also mentioned in the plans that these kiosks, the arches over them, are intended to be lit. However, we didn't receive any lighting plans. So that will be required, and code does limit the type of light, the illumination, and there are some other requirements for the lights to be recessed, etc. So we will need a lighting plan. The trash and vacuum enclosures, in terms of materials, meet code requirements. They are intended to be constructed with CMU block and metal gates. However, we don't have any dimensions, so we cannot determine whether or not the height minimums and maximums are met. We didn't receive any landscape plans, so any changes to the site that would incorporate additional landscaping, it appears that there are islands that are going to be extended, as well as landscape requirements for screening of trash enclosures per code. We don't have those plans, so we will need those. We also do not have any exterior elevations for the buildings, and the reason we mention this is because the color scheme that's provided is for a blue and white color scheme. The buildings themselves, the last iteration that we saw before this board was to change it to a red and yellow color scheme. So we're making an assumption there that this is a rebranding, and we would need to have those elevations brought before the Plan Commission for approval as well. With that in mind, the recommendation is for the Plan Commission to hold this to, in order for the applicant to provide the missing information and for the staff to have an opportunity to review that missing information. That would include a complete site plan that includes setbacks and dimensions for all of the proposed site modifications, details for the menu boards, including design and dimensions, lighting plans for the kiosks, and any other site lighting modifications, whether that's for the parking lot or if it's for the drive aisles. Dimensions for the enclosures, landscape plans for the site, and elevations for any exterior modifications to the existing buildings. If the Plan Commission wishes for this to proceed with conditions of approval, we do have a suggested motion that does incorporate that. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would they like to make comments or address any of the concerns?
Row, 440 South Church Street, Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, I mean, you know, because when we first started looking at this, we had a different site plan, you know, where it was going all to the back, and we're trying to accommodate, you know, not using that back piece, and that there was a conditional use approved. You know, this is kind of, you know, new to us going through this part of the process, just adding the pay station and stuff. I mean, I don't think we have any problem, you know, getting rid of those parking spaces that were put in, you know, before we took on this project. But, you know, I think, you know, we're just looking for you guys to approve it, and we hired somebody, you know, a few weeks back to get a updated survey and everything, so we can complete the landscape study and put the lighting plan on there. Just, you know, that you all can review before, or whoever reviews before the building permit application is put in. But I mean, we have no problem meeting those conditions that staff put on there.
Okay. I will open it up to the commission, starting with Commissioner Chandler.
I do have several questions. However, a couple things. I just want to better understand item number 2 that you see on the screen, just in need of the site plans, the lighting plans, etc. So is that something that's readily available that you can provide planning with?
Well, typically we do that as part of our greenfield developments whenever we do a new development. But since this was just adding the kiosks and stuff, we didn't do that on the front end, and we usually do that whenever we apply for the building permits, not before, since it's just usually a big package. But I don't think it's going to be that substantial here, since we're not adding too much lighting. It's just, you know, over those canopies and anything else to meet code that we need to. But we can get that.
Based on possibly not having these items today, but getting them at a later time, I would be in agreement to hold them.
Commissioner Siepert?
I agree that because of lack of enough information at this time, that I would suggest that we put this item on hold till we get all the information that is necessary. I don't think we need to sit down and plan it, so I recommend putting this item on hold at the present time.
Shinsky?
I concur.
Commissioner Carrillo?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I like what's happening. I think we just need more information. The size of those buildings that they're adding, how they're gonna, you know, cut into that. I think there's just way too many questions.
Commissioner Hannah?
Same here. I was actually looking at the Google map, and it doesn't seem that there is a lot of work to be done comparing to what's proposed. So it's just minor things to be removing those 2 parking slots closer to 27th Street and just building those vacuums. So there's not really much work to be added in the landscaping plan. So yeah, holding it will be the right decision.
So comments for what it's worth. The mayor's not here today. Obviously, I'm filling in for him. He always likes to say he doesn't like to engineer things on the fly and just come up with solutions right on the spot. So I would support staff and turn it over to them to get this finalized for the next meeting. So with that, we will look for a motion.
Siepert moves to put this project on hold.
Guzekowski, I'll second.
Roll call, beginning with Commissioner.
Before we go to roll call, is there a date on which we would agree for this to be brought forward to the Plan Commission again? Is it the next meeting? Is it
something you think that could be done by the next meeting?
that would be up to the applicant to determine. It's in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
2 weeks is good.
hold it to the next meeting?
Next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, beginning with Commissioner Hannah.
Hannah, aye.
Hello, I.
Shinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Siepert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you. That brings us to announcement and adjournment. Carrie, do you have any announcements?
Yes, actually, we have sneak peek at Oak Creek this Saturday. I unfortunately don't have the times in front of me, but it will be an event that is citywide. We will have some tables available in the city hall itself, and I think there will be tours. Dawn, do you have more information?
You know that there's tours of City Hall in the morning,
Okay,
and I believe it goes from 10 till 3.
9 to 2?
9 to 3. 9 to 2. 9 to 2.
9 to 2. There's more information available on the website, folks. But it is this Saturday, and it is citywide, and we do have information available for city tours. If anybody has not already met Sylvia, Sylvia is our new zoning administrator and planner, and we are very happy to have her with us. She's been on board for the last 2.5 weeks or so. So you'll be seeing a lot more of her coming up. And what am I missing? Dawn, do you have anything else?
I have a farmer's market starting May 6th, 2 weeks. Be outside with your winter coats on. So, but yeah, no, the market starts May 6th, and then we go for 24 weeks in a row.
Okay. All good things. We will look for an adjournment now.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 7:39.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call beginning with Commissioner Carrillo.
Carrillo, aye.
Kuczynski, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, I.